And we're live.
Sweet.
Welcome to Book Cobras.
Welcome. Thank you, Ryan. I want to give a special thanks to my tech guy, Ryan. Sure, earlier he didn't know that he was muted and he tried talking. That's fine. That doesn't make me nervous about him being my tech guy at all. But he also just told me a horrible story about his sick pet right before I'm going to read to you. So Ryan, thank you. And seriously, sending all my love to your dog because I like dogs more than people. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. You probably know that because the two people here are probably like my mom and my husband and my best friends. Hi, Jess. Hi, Janice. Hi, Constance. Today, we're going to be reading Inked. As promised, I will be taking a shot first. That very much needs to happen. Also, if you have small children in the vicinity, you should probably put on your headphones because while I don't think there are any bad words in this chapter, they will probably come out of my mouth. So, also, I just realized I should open up this chat here. Oh, there we go. All right. No, I don't have the chat. I don't know. Hey, Ryan, how do I do the chat on this? I forget. Do I actually have to open up YouTube? Probably, because I want to be able to see what you all are saying. I will do that now. Okay. Oh, hey. All right. I see you all now. This is great. Okay, cool. We're good. I can see myself. I can see you. Really glad you could join me. Thank you so much, everyone. It means a lot. So let's get the show on the road. I have my super awesome flask of coconut flavored rum. Hold on one second. If you have a shot at home, cheers. Take it with me, okay? Oh, that's so much fun. That's great. All right, let's get this show on the road. Inked, first book of the Gilded Blood series. This is the deluxe color edition. It's very lovely. Our first chapter, as promised, is called Butt Cobras. Literally, it is called Butt Cobras. I'm a very sophisticated writer. So without further ado, and maybe just a little bit more rum, it's going to be a good night. It's going to be a good reading. Woo! All right. Y'all ready for this? And I see a comment from David. Ryan is a pro, an Irishman, and an excellent author. Okay. Thanks, Alora, for taking a shot of water. All right. Y'all ready? Cool. Let's go. I'm not looking at your comments, by the way, because they're going to distract me. I'll look at the end. Okay. The rotund, dimpled butt cheek jerked and wriggled beneath my fingers, eliciting an exasperated sigh from me, the stalwart curator of said derriere. It belonged to a squirming 50-something-year-old gentleman whose leather motorcycle chaps had been bunched up just beneath the crease of his glutes so that I, his illustrious tattoo artist, could add a rattle to the tip of the cobra's tail, which started at the top of his shoulders and ended right there on his exposed bottom. Yes, I realized cobras don't have rattles, and no, it wasn't my idea. Apparently, my original snake design, which boasted kick-ass, glowing red eyes and a 3-inch-long venomous dripping fangs, wasn't intimidating enough. Hence the ill-advised conception of the rattlesnake cobra abomination. Yep, that is the tattoo. Hey, the customer's always right, or so I'm told. As the burly man quivering beneath my electric needle let out another pitiful whimper, I was forced to look up from the impeccable line I was pulling. You doing okay over there, Roy? Uh-huh. His arms were wrapped around the chair he was straddling as though he were clinging to a life raft. Doing great. Okay, so the good news, I regarded the empty plastic container on the stand beside me, is that we're like 98% finished. The bad news is I just ran out of brown ink. Why don't you take a breather while I head to the back and grab some more? His eyes rolled backward as he sank face first into the vinyl pad he was smothering. Thank you, sweet baby Jesus. Talia's fine, I quipped. He snorted into his seat. You know, I meant to tell you yesterday that I got a nephew about your age, just turned 25. He's funny like you and a good looker too. Kid's got tattoo sleeves from his jaw to his wrists, just like his uncle. I coughed to try to conceal my laughter. Roy, my mother would have a conniption fit if I brought home another Gentile with a neck tattoo. So unless your nephew's last name is Lipschitz, Gentile, That some kind of lizard? Depends on the Gentile, I grinned. I set down my tattoo gun and peeled off my gloves, stretching my fingers as I did. Apart from Roy, the shop was totally empty this afternoon. He'd sent his biker buddies over to the dive bar next door once it came time for me to shave his right butt cheek, one of the many perks of my day job, and Zane, my boss, hadn't shown up to work this morning. Chewing on the inside of my cheek as I trudged to the back room, I glanced down at my phone's empty screen for the 100th time that day. It wasn't like Zane to go AWOL. In fact, he'd only ever missed a single day of work since hiring me 2 years ago, and even then, he'd been bombarding me with nonstop texts the entire morning. Is the register locked? Do you have enough singles in the drawer? You're not doing tequila shots with customers again, right? Talia's not based on me at all, by the way. I pulled up his contact information on my phone, feeling my stomach do a little flip, as it always did when his stupidly gorgeous photo appeared on the screen. The man drove me crazy with all of his neuroticisms. Sort of reminded me of my mother in that respect, now that I thought about it. But hot damn, did he have a beautiful face. Blah, blah, blah. We talk about his wavy black hair, how gorgeous he is, and those eyes. They were like polished emeralds, sometimes dark, sometimes gleaming, depending on the light and his ever-changing moods. They made my own green eyes look like a mucky swamp. My thumb hit the call button as my free hand rummaged through the cabinet looking for number 17, Dolce de Leche Brown. Maybe he just slept in, I told myself as the first ring trilled in my ear. I mean, even workaholics gotta have benders from time to time. Except Zane didn't drink, or party, or indulge in so much as a single Reese's piece, lest his perfect six-pack be chipped away by a morsel of smooth peanut buttery goodness. The line rang and rang. Meanwhile, that stupid shade of brown was nowhere to be found. You've reached Zane, a deep, husky voice finally answered. Don't leave a message. Because you never check your voicemails, I finished, having heard that same greeting 12 times that morning. Yeah. I slammed the phone on the counter, only semi-concerned about the replacement screen I'd just gotten for, repeatedly slamming my phone on hard surfaces. Telephonic devices don't last particularly long in my custody. Hey, Tal, what's the holdup? I gotta pee, Roy hollered from the other room. Don't you dare pull your pants up, I yelled. They're not sterile. Fine, but I got maybe 10 minutes before my bladder explodes. Okay, I'm coming. We're almost done. Just hang tight. He gave an annoyed grunt in response. Crap. My hands raked through the scattered ink bottles on the counter. I dumped out the entire cabinet, but there's nothing, not even a darker brown I could blend with white. I rubbed the bridge of my nose in aggravation. Running out of ink 9/10 of the way through a 5-hour session was such a rookie move. My cheek chewing intensified further as I eyed Zane's locked office door. I knew he had an entire stash of expensive exotic ink in there that I was strictly forbidden to touch. Zane himself only used it for special VIP clients who paid him something outrageous to engrave these weird-looking symbols all over their body. I'd asked him about them once, both the clients and the elaborate squiggles, and his answer had been clear. None of my damn business. There's an empty water bottle out here. Can I use that? Roy hollered. For drinking? No, you cannot use that, I shrieked, thinking of the beautiful bedazzled thermos my mother had gotten me last Hanukkah. Just hang on, I'm coming. Without another thought, I snatched an expired credit card from my wallet and jammed it between Zane's locked office door and the frame, expertly jimmying the handles. I made a sawing motion with the card. When the lock finally caught, I swung the door open triumphantly. Zane's office was cast in darkness, but I didn't bother turning on a light as I made my way to the filing cabinet behind his desk, where one of those cool symbols he was always doodling had been etched into the metal. By some miraculous turn of events, the top drawer was unlocked and slightly ajar, displaying a beautiful cache of tiny glass bottles clustered at the bottom, just waiting to be injected into somebody's butt. Like I said, it's going to be a good night after this, or I might just go to sleep and take a nap. Probably that. Don't tell. I flicked on my cell phone flashlight as I rummaged through Zane's clinking treasures like the amateur burglar I was, my fingertips brushing over the fancy labels until I found the one I needed. A light brown pigment, aptly called fawn. The name was hand-painted in fancy calligraphy with grand flourishes on the F and N. Me looking around for some of the reactions. Yeah, I know. I told you guys I wasn't going to look at the comments, and I'm not. Thank you, Zach. You're incredibly kind. I love you, my new best friend. Are these seriously stoppered with corks? I marveled, rolling the bottle in between my thumb and forefinger. How weird. I could practically hear Zane chastising me. Tall, you'd better put that the hell back and walk away. A year's worth of paychecks wouldn't cover the cost of that one bottle. I'll just use a tiny bit, I silently promised my conspicuously absent boss, clutching the itty-bitty vial in my hand. With a fleeting twinge of guilt, I shut the door and made my way back to the hairy full moon my customer was casually bearing in the lobby. Sorry, I breezed as I slipped on fresh gloves and carefully refilled the ink chamber, making sure to be as stingy as humanly possible. I'll have you inked and saran wrapped before you know it. Just don't jerk around this time. Roy let out an unintelligible grunt as I used a mag needle to whip shade across the rattle on his rump, switching off between blotting and filling in the shading as quickly as possible. The ink was smooth and creamy, its pigment vibrant and vivid, despite being a yucky brown shade. Ignoring his persistent griping and fidgeting, I smeared some ointment on the new lines, then quickly swapped in the 5R liner to resculpt the old number 17, dulce de leche lines running across the snake's belly, marveling at the quality. Zane had been right to hoard this stuff. I jumped back up from my chair as a brilliant idea struck me. Be right back. A moment later, I returned with 2 more bottles from Zane's stash, Onyx and Ruby. After cleaning out the ink cartridge with distilled water, I quickly touched up the rest of my creation, awed by the ease in which the black ink spread across Roy's skin with perfect coverage, making the scales of the snake pop in whispers, though brushing past one another as it slithered. This is where the rum is kicking in. It slithered. Meanwhile, the red ink had the perfect viscosity for meticulous precision, allowing me to pack color into those wicked crimson eyes with unbelievable depth and emotion. Yes, I hissed, hunched over my brilliant work like a mad scientist. How's it look? Roy asked, squinting at me over his shoulder to examine the progress of his Frankensnake. Terrifying, I grinned. He looks like he might leap right off your back and bite me. As I wiped away the excess ink and cleaned the tattoo side, I had to take a minute to admire my artistic prowess. I mean, sure, it was a stupid cobra with a rattle, but in terms of quality, it was one of my better creations. The scales were slick and black, gleaming like oil beneath the fluorescent lights. The eyes were narrowed and lively, crimson danger seething behind slanted irises. And the rattle was so realistic, it was practically quivering. In fact, the lights on the ceiling must have flickered because for a second there, it really did look like it was moving. Or maybe that was just Roy twitching from a raw butt and a full bladder. After snapping a quick photo for my portfolio, minus his butt crack, for the sake of the children, I quickly cleaned and reapplied a layer of tattoo ointment to all 5 feet of snake, then held up a mirror for Roy to admire the work of art on his backside. It's perfect, he grinned, taking it in from fang to rattle. My wife's gonna love it. Yep, Dottie's the lucky lady, I chuckled, deftly pressing a sheet of adhesive tattoo film to his posterior before helping him pull up his pants. Without bothering to refasten his belt, he half ran, half waddled to the bathroom, letting out a prolonged moan of relief that I could hear through the door the moment it clicked shut. After taking one more glance at my phone, no missed calls except for the usual 3 or 4 from my mother, I got to work cleaning up my station. I just started cleaning off my tattoo machine when another moan sounded from the bathroom, this one heartier than the last. Jesus, Roy, I muttered, shaking my head in disgust. Turn on the damn fan. The shrill, blood-curdling scream that followed made me jump half a foot in the air. Roy? I shouted. My half-clean tattoo gun clattered on the stand as I tore across the shop. Roy, what's wrong? Help! Get it off! Roy! I jiggled the handle, then banged on the door with my fist. Unlock the door! Roy! Help me! He yelped. Please! Ah! His voice cut off with a loud choking sound. Something heavy thudded against the floor, followed by skin-prickling silence. Roy! I shouted, kicking the door. Roy! No response. I yanked out my cell and dialed 911, cradling the phone between my ear and shoulder as the line rang. Then I snatched up the same credit card I'd used to break into Zane's office and forced it into the door jamb, jiggering the handle violently. 911, what's your emergency? A female voice answered. Hi, how are you? Ma'am, what is your emergency? Grimacing, I roughly shook the memory away. I actually skipped that part because it takes too long to read. Anyway, I think my customer is having a heart attack, I grunted, using my shoulder to push against the door as I jimmied the lock. The credit card caught, then slipped past. Damn it, I yelled. Come on! I could hear the woman clattering information into her keyboard. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. What is your name and location? Talia Kessenbaum. I work at Flourish and Dot's tattoo parlor in Wynwood, or Miami, I added for good measure, yanking down the handle just as the card caught the edge of the latch. Yes! I shoved against the door, but it only budged a few inches. Roy's body was blocking it from opening any further. Damn it, Roy, I wheezed, pushing on the door with both hands. No luck. Please tell me exactly what's happening, Talia, the dispatcher was prompting me. I pressed my back against the door and heaved with my legs, which slid uselessly across the linoleum tile. My client had a pee, so he went to use the toilet, I groaned. Single stall. The wouldn't budge. The door wouldn't budge. So I started doing backward thrusts with my hips, pounding my ass into the door battering ram style. Few, thump, minutes, thump, later, thump, thump. He started screaming, thump, thump, thump. Ah, damn it. But throbbing, I sank to the ground. And then what happened? Then he, I don't know, fell, I guess? My articulate and incredibly helpful explanation petered out as I peered into the 5-inch crack between the door and the jamb. Roy's bare legs were splayed out on the ground, leather chaps bunched around his ankles. Behind him, near the toilet, something small and dark darted across the floor. What the? I whispered. Ma'am? A strange, discomforting sound was emanating from the general toilet area, a soft hiss, almost like the whisper of wind. A gas leak? I wondered idly, but I couldn't smell anything. I turned my ear toward the crack, holding my breath to listen. There was another weird sound on top of that, an intermittent shaking sound that reminded me of a maraca, one that was being rattled at 1,000,000 times per second by an angry, tight-fisted mariachi player, which of course didn't make any. Ma'am, please, do you know if your client is breathing? I'm trying to find out, I snapped, craning my neck to try and get a better look inside. A movement just behind Roy's legs made me jump and smack my head on the door jamb. Ow, what the? I started, then abruptly choked on my own question as a flat head rose up from the tiled floor. At the end of its long black serpentine body, a fawn-colored rattle quivered, a spine-chilling warning that made every hair on my body stand on end and my throat seal shut, much like the last time I'd eaten a strawberry, only to realize that I'm deathly allergic to them. Somehow I didn't think an EpiPen was going to save me this time. That's not possible, I tried to say. Instead, an unintelligible strangled noise croaked out of my fluttering mouth. The cobra's head bobbed from side to side, its red eyes boring into the depths of my soul. Talia, officers are currently on the way, but I need you to provide me with additional information in the meantime. What is the victim's name and age? Is he conscious? I stammered. With a hiss that sliced through the air like a whip, the creature's jaw unhinged to reveal the largest, sharpest fangs I'd ever seen, and a forked tongue darting in and out between them. It pulled its head back as though rearing to strike. Snake! I screamed. Wait, did you just say, there's a giant-ass snake in the bathroom? I shrieked in the receiver. It's, oh shit! My cell phone clattered to the floor as the black serpent rose up from the ground, its 3-inch-long fangs dripping with venom and malice, and its brown rattle shaking menacingly. Before I could choke out another 4-letter word, the snake lunged. A high-pitched little girl scream tore from my throat. In a fit of panic, I toppled backwards, smacking my head on the tile with a terrible thwack that immediately blotted out the fluorescent ceiling lights into inky black darkness. And so for those of you wondering why the first chapter is called Butt Cobras, spoiler alert, that's why. So thank you all so much for bearing with me during that interesting reenactment. I'm going through and I'm glancing at your comments now. David Green said Frankensnake is the name of a death metal band somewhere. Probably David. If not, let's start it. Yeah, it's always a Roy, definitely. Buddiest, snakiest. Great. Yeah. So now that I have put you all through, thank you guys. Now that I've put you all through the torment, joy, depending on who you are, of that reading, if you have any questions, ask them now. Doesn't have to be about Talia or butt cobras. It could be about the meaning of life or the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Or it could just be, like a thumbs up emoji. That's great too. Thanks, Constance. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So for those of you who were asking, as in my mother and like all 6 of you. Jinxed is about 60% done. So if you're one of those people who doesn't like to pick up a book until the series is done, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, it's happening. It's getting there. It's going to happen really soon. So yeah, that is that. That is that. I don't really have anything else to say except I think this might be my favorite book boyfriend of all the boyfriends that I've written. So yeah, if you're into romance, this one's a fun one. I did see someone comment earlier on, I think one of my advertisements, and he said, "Oh, you had me until you mentioned romance," and I was like, "Seriously?" That was definitely interesting. Like, why else would you read something if not for the smut? Like, seriously. Precisely how many shots have I consumed? Well, let's figure this out mathematically. This holds 5 ounces, maybe. And the rum was up to there, and now it's down to here. So someone who's good at math, let me know. There's about this much left. I'm gonna go with 2 3/4. If I didn't already mention, I seldom drink. So sorry to my husband and family members who will have to deal with me after this. Constance is asking if this is a trilogy. Yes. I'm already planning out in my head, because I never actually plot anything, the 3rd book. It's back there in my subconscious. I know the title too. I bet it won't be that hard for anyone to figure out, since the first one is inked and the second one is jinxed. There aren't too many words that rhyme with that. When is the audiobook of Inked read by Rachel Rener coming out, and why isn't it tomorrow? Well, David Green, that is an excellent question. Mostly it has to do with time, ability, and the fact that apart from the 6 people on this chat, nobody wants to hear that, really. And besides, you're narrating all my books from here on out. So, so 2 shots and 3/4 is 1 Irish measure. Yeah. And yes, the 3rd book will be called Boinked. It'll definitely be called Boinked or Kinked. Kinked is always good. Pinked. Binged. Damn it. Oh, one of you actually guessed it. But now I'm going to change it because of all the things that you all came up with, like Sphinxed, where it'll take place in ancient Egypt and be the reason why the Sphinx lost his nose. You don't need to hear it. You can read it, because someone aptly named Constance Lopez already named the title. I only wish I could tell you why it was named that, and it's not just because it rhymes. Yeah. So yes. Synced. Yes, Constance, that's it. It's synced. It's a retelling of the Titanic. It takes place on a cruise ship and they sink. Thank you. It would be nice to you guessed it, Constance. It would be nice to narrate these. Anyway, Inked is out. It's been out. Jinxed is up for pre-order. The deluxe color edition is available on my website, thelightningconjurer.com, because I don't actually like putting my name out there, just my books. And yeah, also, if you're the person who commented in a review that you loved everything about this book except for the Jewish mother who you felt was a stereotype, I would like to introduce you to my Jewish mother, who this book was basically 98% based on. So for that person who said, I felt sad that Talia's Jewish mother was a stereotype, that stereotype is walking and living and breathing in Colorado. So yes. Yeah. So unless you guys have any other questions, I will probably release you of your misery. I have all this stuff and more available on my website. Follow me, sign up for my blog, send me random direct messages, so I can have more reasons not to write. And yeah, really, thank you so much for being here. We do heart Dee Dee. Dee Dee is the best. She is my second favorite character. I was going to have my real life Biscuit up here, by the way, but every time I have him on my shoulder with these on, he tries to eat them. So yeah, just know that there are no stereotypes in here. They're all based on the insanity that is in my life. And thank you so much for joining. Really means a lot. Thanks for going through that. You guys are awesome. I'm just gonna chill here until Ryan decides to, not Ryan Brummond, there is a Ryan Brummond. Hi, Ryan. The other Ryan decides to cut me off because I'm a little bit drunk. No, Biscuit is not a real life butt cobra. Biscuit is my bird. He's a cockatoo. And like the Biscuit bird in Inked, he is manipulative and obsessed with almonds. And his name is Terrence. And if you've ever seen The Good Place, he kind of thinks of me as his mommy girlfriend because he both, you know, I'm his mommy, and also he wants to make little eggs with me. But again, this is the part that nobody should be listening to because I was drunk like 15 minutes ago. Laura, I don't know what you're talking about, little. Zach, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Really appreciate that. I don't, what's little? My brain, the bird, this book. You have to tell me more. Otherwise, I can't answer you. All right, it's Friday night. Those of you who are still here, oh, a little drunk. Yeah, I'm a lot more than a little drunk. Those of you who are still here, go do something interesting with your life. And I don't know where Ryan has gone, so I'm just gonna sit here and like talk it out until the very end, basically. Yeah. It's never gonna stop because, you know, you have 4 minutes and I'll turf you out. Yeah. Anyway. One Irish. No, it's great. So what happened was earlier in a different panel, it was the Great Fantasy Bake Off. Don't worry, Laura, I'm not going to stop. It was the Great Fantasy Bake Off. And I was eating jelly beans that tasted like dirty dishwater. So if you haven't seen it, go look at it. Anyway, at some point afterwards, it was a mess. There were all these jelly beans that tasted like rotten eggs. Ryan was talking to us. He was muted. Naturally, I made fun of him. Eat one now. I will show you this. I will show you what I'm talking about because I still have it next to me. Look, this is it. This is the game, okay? And fine. If y'all want me to do this, I will do it. You spin this little thing. You spin it. And it lands on one, and oh, great. Thanks a lot, QuaranCon2022, because it landed on either strawberry banana smoothie or dead fish. So wherever you are, I will hunt you down and find you. And I have 1 minute left. If there is a God, please let this be strawberry smoothie and not dead fish. Okay, here it is. Here's my possibly dead fish jelly bean, and cheers. I don't know what to do. It's so bad. It's really bad. It's really okay. I'm gonna. So yeah. On that wonderful, terrible note, we really need to end this now because it's just going to go downhill from here. That might be the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth. And I just want you to know that I was really experimental in college. So cheers, guys. Thanks for that.